to invite, let me see if she's on the panel right now, Dr. Judy Mikovits.
Ah,
Here she is.
Or as we used to say,
I am pressing the buttons in the right order, so she should have just been promoted to be able to turn on her microphone and video, so we should be able to get rocking and rolling here. Again, try to press all the buttons in the right order. Judy, Dr. Judy, there you go.
She is.
Wonderful.
Here's Dr. Judy. Welcome to the program, Canna World Expo. We appreciate your presence. And why don't you let us know a little bit about your background before we get into subject matters that we'll be covering with you, Dr. Judy.
Yeah. I'm Judy Mikovits, and I have a PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology. And I've worked for almost 40 years on how viruses cause cancer and acquired immune deficiencies, and using natural products, including cannabis, to heal them and prevent them. So that's what I'll be talking about today. I think in this segment, we're discussing glyphosate and growing cannabis and how important it is to keep Roundup and pesticides out of cannabis.
And the best way to do that.
Yeah.
And we had talked about STDs earlier in the program, and because sometimes if you're putting a seed or a little hatchling off onto the ground, you better watch out what's in that ground, because it'll be sucked up and put into your plant and then smoked, and then there could be some tragedies associated with those elements.
Absolutely, and that's why we primarily do medical uses, and for those uses, it's pretty much never smoke anything, and we require those certificates of analyses, and we'll talk about that with respect to COVID and why in our discussion.
Do you have a camera?
Now you would
come over to my laptop then.
You would think that smoking it, which certainly is one of the top ways that people are consuming cannabis, would affect the lungs, because that's the gateway. But with the coronavirus affecting the lungs as well, is there a crossover of maybe we should cut back on a few bong loads and vaping during these times?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point we go to. So we address, and I did prepare a PowerPoint because it's quite molecular, because I speak like a that's what I am. I'm a molecular biologist, so I don't know. I work hard to translate those languages into English, and Denise has done a great job in helping me put together those PowerPoints.
It's almost like you're one of the members of the Big Bang Theory with that type of background.
Well, I hope not.
Enjoyable program that takes those with minds like yours and makes them real. We certainly appreciate your presence here with us today.
Great. It's wonderful to be here, and so have a lot to say. Been raising my hand a bit to talk about various things, and so as I heard those things, like for instance, thinking about Brian David Scott's stroke. There's an awful lot that's known about how using cannabinoids can prevent stroke and other diseases, and that's what we've been doing now for 4 decades, and they all cross over between infection and in immunity. So I usually call the endocannabinoid system the dimmer switch on the inflammation. So the simplest way to think about not only the SARS coronavirus number 2, and how it causes disease. I also raised my hand while you were talking about the young lady who was severely injured, and I didn't catch her relationship to you, but at any rate, she recovered. She recovered because she was healthy, and the flame didn't get too high. So she made an immune response, and she made antibodies and anti-inflammatory molecules. And yes, we could have provided cannabinoids in either a sublingual form or an edible form that could have removed those toxins and calmed that flame, put out that fire in her body, that overreaction of the immune system there from, whatever virus attacks you. And this is what I've basically spent my life doing, is thinking about natural products and how they cause disease. And of course, in that process, learning how to extract the actives and make sure contaminants like glyphosate, which is an ingredient, the cancer-causing ingredient in Roundup. And so what that does to your immune system and what it is and how it does it is what I illustrated in that one slide. I sent the slides to you, Denise, because my computer shut down, which happens to me a lot about 5 minutes before this. So I sent those just before the computer shut down, and I can talk to them and point you to the slide number if you'd like to do it that way, or we can simply.
Denise, do you have them, and do you want to share your screen, or do you want to fire them at me and I can do that? Denise.
Oh, Sean, I sent it to you by email.
Okay,
so
let me just check, and then what I'll do is I'll press all the magical buttons over here. Okay, that's this. So, okay, bear with me one moment, Judy. I will walk through them and then
thank you.
do.
And following the agenda, the topic right now is playfully plant STDs, and this is substrate transmitted diseases. Because
Correct.
we have a very big announcement to make on the agriculture side of the industry. And Snowden has done a very thorough report. She has a story that will be published very soon on this topic with additional information, because we have limited time today. So thank you, Dr. Judy.
All I want to show is slide 4, because the substrate and the growing and the toxin that I'm considering here is the glyphosate in the Roundup, which gets.
Okay, so you should be able to see if I do this, and let me just jump through the actual presentation. Let me know, do you want to go through slide by slide and do the intro, or do you
No,
want
I just want to be on slide 4 for this talk. I'll give the rest of it later today.
Okay, well, there you go.
That's what I want.
Wow.
Okay, so
There's
walk through that.
Lemon tree again.
Yeah, that lemon tree. So, so as far as substrates go, and of course, growing the plant in the soil, it's so important that the soil be clean and free of contaminants. And this is so difficult to do in our world, because Roundup and glyphosate, sprayed on a farm, gets through the soil, gets through the water system, and really can contaminate nearby farms that don't do such spraying. So I don't know if indoor growing is the answer, but or testing the soil is extremely important. So, what I show here at the top of this slide. So I'm talking about glyphosate there. And what glyphosate actually is it's a glycine molecule with a phosphate group stuck on that right side. And so why that is important is because glycine is a critical amino acid in our bodies. It's your flexibility. It's the smallest amino acid. It's a critical amino acid in our bodies. And it's one of 3 components. It's produced by the liver, and it's made up of L-cysteine and L-glutamate along with glycine. And it's shown on the right-hand side of that slide. You can see what that glutathione, it's called GSH, is actually, it's those SH molecules, GSSH, those sulfurs there and hydrogens, they actually absorb free radicals, and oxidative stress creates free radicals. So this really critical molecule that you make out of your own nutrients, out of your food, the food you eat, you break it down into those amino acids and you make glutathione, and that helps you break down other nutrients. It's a key regulator of the immune response. And I'll just say again, what the endocannabinoid system is a dimmer switch on the flame, your immune response. Inflammation means start a fire. How big the fire needs to be is determined by your endocannabinoid system. So what happens with glyphosate is it persists in the environment. It affects the health of the plants, and that includes the cannabinoids. It will cripple the cannabinoids' ability to transmit the electron, the signals through the cell surface, and we'll talk in great deal about that later, but you could see that in the previous slide, in slide 3. You see there, this is your human endocannabinoid system. So these are membrane, they cross the membrane several times, and they drive charge, they drive energy, or they're energy charge channels, as you see the blue one, the TRPV1 is a trans receptor potential, the nilloid 1. That's a key hot and cold pain receptor. So the endocannabinoid system, most of the immune, the control of the inflammatory is in the gut. So we're and not in the brain where the receptors regulate a different set of stem cells, and in fact, the endocannabinoid system and that CB2 regulator that's on the immune system in the gut, that dark blue or purple there in that slide, is it really controls inflammation and detoxification by the liver. Everything that we think of is those receptors, and so it's keeping that signaling from having any interference. And when you have glyphosate, when that phosphate group gets on the end of the glycine amino acid, it actually can, and this is mostly the work of my friend Dr. Stephanie Seneff at MIT and her colleague Dr. Samsel there as well. There are numerous publications of the role of glyphosate in many diseases, including stroke, heart disease, Alzheimer's, autism, cancer. It's a powerful toxin, and the main way that it works is by dysregulating the charge, the signal production by those immune regulators in the peripheral organs, that CB2 receptor. So if we go back to the glyphosate slide, then you can see that if cannabis is grown in glyphosate, or if a person is eating a lot of processed food with GMO, they're dysregulating their endocannabinoid system as well as their liver's ability to detox. So you can no longer make that key antioxidant molecule, and this is really your frontline defense, not only for SARS-2, SARS-CoV-2, CoV-2. I'll distinguish that. So SARS-CoV-2 is the name of the virus. COVID means coronavirus infectious disease 19. Infection does not equal disease. So if you have a healthy endocannabinoid system, if you have a healthy immune system, And if you're not under oxidative stress, which is flying in an airplane or skiing in altitude, so we see the cofactors when we think about the young woman you discussed earlier who was skiing in Utah and became ill. So you're under oxidative stress, number one. When you're flying on an airplane over 10,000 feet, you're exposed to plutonium and lots of free radical because you're above that protective ozone layer. And again, and you're high up in altitude, so you're requiring a lot of oxygen, a lot of metabolism.
Turn it off, or what am I doing?
Wow,
So
I have one question for you about
yes, sir.
Plant that is it's living, it's grown, and once it's harvested, does the energy of that plant is it deleted at all? And are researchers able to say reactivate the elements of the plant that do so much for you? Freshness, I'm sure, is key, is what I'm wondering.
Oh, yes, the energy of plants is always transferred. That's the idea of food. So the idea of food is to be able to break down those nutrients in those plants, in that food you eat. And that's why we're thinking, we're discussing mainly how we're growing that plant, because you ingest it by eating, by smoking, by balms on the skin, by applying it to different parts of your immune system. You allow it to affect and calm that fire in your immune system. So we will talk in great detail about those curative. I use the word curative, meaning it's not by itself, that the cannabinoids, the plant nutrients aren't by themselves a cure of these diseases, but in combination, in thinking about other plants that you eat and how they calm different parts of the immune system. And importantly, it's very interesting about the coffee, because coffee, caffeine is a purine, and that's the building blocks of our DNA. So the nucleic acids, not the amino acids, then talk to each other. And when you have too many danger signals, your purine caffeine is probably the major purine that we consume. So when you add cannabinoids to coffee, then you're damping down or calming down two different parts of danger signals that say you're in trouble, say you're stressed. As we heard, that you can focus your brain so much better. So the important thing is to make sure that you grow all of your foods, all of your plant, free of Roundup and these pesticides. And in part, when that's one of the STDs that's weakening our plants, our food's ability to heal us. So, and through these mechanisms. So if you don't have glutathione, because you're eating GMO, or your cannabis, your products are contaminated and you don't know they're clean, or even if it's grown into it, they're weakening as the signals aren't able to be transduced because they're compromised by that phosphate molecule that will stop the signaling. And then you get further dysregulated immune response, and you lose the protection of that oxidative stress.
The wonders of the cannabis plant continue to grow as we speak with experts like you. You've done a great job explaining in a brief time what's going on inside of not only my body, but Denise's body, or Snowden's body, and all of us. We all.